we're on the same page when we work, and as far as the diverse of the culture goes, we have a lot of similarities in what we talk about. So, so that's what I've noticed about when we share our culture, doing cross cultures. That's what I see. Is that the similarities in our culture.
In what way?
The way if I talk about something, someone is going to say, "Oh yeah, that's how my grandmother used to do things," something like that. And then talk about something else. Someone else will say, "Oh yeah, that's how my great grandmother did things," or grandmother. So it's something that we share.
And what do you think you bring particularly to the Working Party?
Beg your pardon?
What do you bring to the Working Party?
What do I bring? I bring my culture and respect of people, and acknowledge the diversity of the people that I'm working with. When I talk about my people, the greatest counsellors in the world, you know, and greatest conservationists, greatest scientists, greatest astronomers, all that sort of stuff. And we share. That's what I like to share with the people, and I'm quite sure that the group I'm working with will be able to share their stories in a similar fashion. That's how we learn. So it works both ways too. We can talk to parents about what's going on in the world and educate our kids. Because when our kids start talking, parents tend to listen. Because our kids will always be out there playing together, you know. There might be a dozen kids, and all these kids come from different backgrounds. Here they all playing together. So I think it's time the parents needed educating. And then we could follow up with talking to our kids about a lot of stuff then. Because what I have at home, which it'll be happening again soon, I have a learning circle at home. And people come in the backyard. And they sit around and we get a fire going, we do a smoking ceremony, like a cleansing, and but they're black and white people, not just white people. And talk about culture, and some of the white people that come in, we tend to find their families, because these white people got Aboriginal blood in them, and we find their mob. And it's a good place to be in the circle, where we learn so much. Like what he was talking about this morning, we learned so much this morning, but it wasn't a circle. But we learned so much. So if we come into a circle and share the same values, then we'll be able to run with it in the palm of our hand and treasure that for the rest of our lives and work with others about doing the right thing in society and learning in a positive way. Changes, I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of changes. See, when I was a kid living in La Perouse, we we'd get off the tram. There used to be a tram running out to Lapras on the rails used to go all the way in the city out to Lapras. And we'd jump off the tram, and some of the old people, no matter if they're Greek, Italians, Maltese, Indian, White Russians, we'd grab their bag of groceries, and we'd take it to their house. And everyone knew where that old person lived. And we'd take the bag to their door and just put it down and put it on the step. And then they want to give us 2 bob for, because it was pound, shillings and pence back then in those days. They want to give us 2 bob for carrying the groceries home, because 2 bob was a lot of money then, back in those days. But we wouldn't accept, no, it's okay, I don't want to be paid for this. And we did this quite often when I seen the old people getting off the bus, off the trams. So, and now we used to make our own money, getting soft drink bottles along the beach, driving off the old wharf for pennies, save all that money up, and we take a girl to the pictures at Maroubra Junction. And I might take an Italian girl, I might take a Maltese girl or a Russian, and they would say, oh, I got no money to go to pictures. I said, oh, I got money. And all you had is 8 shillings. That'll get you to there's a penny on the tram, and you go to the pictures interval, you go get ice cream, popcorn, whatever you wanted, and chips. We go back into the pictures and watch the second half. Then come home, and because we had a few bob left, we go to the milk bar and get a Coke. We used to drink the Coke in the milk bar because it only cost us 6pence. And to take that drink out of the milk bar, it cost you 9pence. And we used to play the pinball machine and play the old jukebox, and just listen to the music when we were playing the poker machine, playing the pinball machine. Because there's always money left over, you know, out of the 8 shillings after we've gone to the pictures and bought something at the interval. And money was money back in those days, and everyone was independent. They all sort of looked out. We all looked out for each other, but everyone made their own money to go to the pictures. But I always took someone with me, and these people I grew up with, like the Greeks, Italians, and the white girls, the Maltese, we classify them as our brothers and sisters, you know. And that's how, and we looked after each other. But these days, things have all changed now. I don't know what's wrong with people. I noticed going back a few years back, you would have heard the word racism, but you might only hear it about twice a year. But now, people they say, oh, these people over there, they're racist. They may not be racist, just they have bad comments. So they're good people gone wrong. And it's not because they're racist. It's something that they picked up, but they weren't born with that, and they weren't. They didn't learn anything like that at home. It's just that the company they associate with maybe talk about these things, and but at the same time, they're not racist people. It's just stupidity, the way they're carrying on. So that's how I see it anyways, you know. There's a lot of good people out there. They just need educating. And I noticed today a lot of the young people, because I've worked in the down here over here at Blacktown Children's Court, Parramatta Children's Court, where I work with a lot of kids. And they, I always give them a hug and kiss, you know, the young boys, 14-year-old. And I used to say to them, you know, I love you. And I give them a hug and a kiss them on the forehead. And I did exactly the same thing with the girls. I told them how much I loved them, because they never ever got that when they were kids, you know. Their parents never ever nurtured them. And if they did, they wouldn't be in that courtroom fronting the magistrate. And that's how I used to do things. And we used to have so-called, when the magistrate would come out, you know, they'd mention my name and they'd mention these other so-called elders that were working, that was in the courtroom. But I didn't see them as elders, but they said they were elders. And the way they spoke to the kids in a rough, you know, manner. Oh, you need a good kick in the backside, you know, you want to wake up yourself talking to kids like that. And I got that way that I was going to tell these so-called elders, before you go any further, how about you tell these kids your story when you was a kid and how wonderful you were and you was Mummy's little angel. So, you know, we were all kids once, I tell them, you know. I said, we were all kids once. They say, don't talk like that to kids. We're here to help these kids, not humiliate them. They may not be your kids, but when I look at it, they're all my kids. Because I'm an elder, and I care for these little ones. And these other so-called elders, I wouldn't give them the time of day. Because elders don't do those things. You know, they elders are out there to take these people and take them on that journey, that learning journey, so they can respect things. And but these others, I got no time for them. And even today, we got elders, so-called elders. Oh, they say, yeah, I'm an elder now because I'm 60 years old. I said, that don't make you an elder. You got to live it. You got to live that life to become an elder. And spend a lot of time with the old people and learn about their old ways. Learn about the old ways. And they say, he's never been there. So he's not elder. You don't know nothing. But anyways, I don't want to educate these so-called elders because they have an attitude, the way they do things. And I don't like working with people like that. If they say, oh, could you teach me? I said, no, you should have learnt all that when you was a kid. Why don't you hang around the old people? Because there were times when old people would take you under their wing and take you out in the bush with the rest of the old fellas, and you'd be there watching them do wood carving, and they'd be singing in language. But no girls were allowed to go out, only just the boys. And the women would go out with the girls would go out with the women to learn women's stuff. But these fellas didn't learn anything, and all of a sudden, because they turned a certain age, they're elders. Because you could be an elder at the age of 30, as long as you learned a lot when you was growing up with the culture and lived that life. By the time you got to 30, you was groomed into a person that's ready to become a future elder. But here they are, they're in there already, you know, as elders. But as they go on the journey, they can still learn. They can still learn from the old people And when the old people pass on, they got all those values and stories to take on to the next generation and share. And all these so-called elders, they're not elders. See these old people, they're not elders. Because they don't have the wisdom and knowledge and the values. I see it all the time. And I told a few people, I said, you're not elders because you never lived that life. You never lived, but I'm 60 now. I don't care if you're 60 or 80. You never lived that life. You've got to live it to understand about Aboriginal culture. Not something you've got to read out of a book or heard someone talk about it. You've got to be there in that community and lived it. People, you know, I keep telling people that. I said, don't come near me saying you're an elder because you're not. Because I was sick and tired of people saying, I went and seen this elder, Artie so-and-so. I said, he's not an elder. Far from it. Or Uncle so-and-so, they're not elders. Because they were never taught anything. Because they got to a certain age, they think they're elders, but they're not. I suppose we call them elderly, but not elders. It's got nothing to do with culture and how to work in communities and how to work with kids. Because our kids, one day they're going to be our future leaders. And that's why we need to spend a lot of time with the little ones before they get into a lot of trouble. And the thing is that a lot of them get into trouble, but you wonder why they got there. And a lot of them got there through getting in with the wrong company and people telling them different stories. How they can do this and how they can do that, but they'll never get there because it's not real what they're telling them. And that's why they need to go back to the old people to learn the old ways.
Great. Thank you, Uncle Greg. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.